Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here, and I'll be going over the 5 best decks I've seen on ladder so far since the recent patch update. We had a lot of buffs, we had a lot of nerfs, a lot of things got changed, the meta evolved quite quickly, and we saw a reassurance of a very powerful new deck, and then some old decks as well. There's still a lot of time to figure out what's best, but these decks are shining very bright, especially this rogue one right here. I played 5 hours the first day it was out. I played roughly 40-ish games, and I queued into 50% rogue, as we can see here, and it was all the same deck, and it's this deck right here. This deck is absolutely disgusting. 100% this card is going to get reverted back 4 mana. I don't know who decided this thing needs to go to 3, but this deck is actually just insane right now. Absolutely the best deck in the game. Hands down, this deck just wins on turn basically between 4 to 6. Keep in mind, it is a bit hard to pilot at first. There's a lot of different lines of play you can make, but once you see the deck in action and once you play with the deck yourself, you'll see where you can go wrong. You'll see what you need to do instead, and you'll get very good at this deck within 20 to 30 games, I'd say. So this deck's kind of interesting because we do run Maestra because of the nulls. These 0 mana nulls are basically your very early game. They combo with all of your combo activators, and it clears the early game. Still 0 mana 3/5s with Rush. Who would have known that's good on turn 2 or 3 still. Then from there, we have the Graveyard, which summons a 1/1 for each other card you played this turn with the Necrolord. So you're playing a massive amount of spells. All of them, as you can see, cost 0, 1, or 2. Most of the cards that cost 2, like the Bone Spike, then reduce the cost of the next spell you play, so you can do some very wacky things. You run Shadow Steps and Preps and Backstabs, so you just play a lot of cards on your basically pop-off or combo turn. You make either giant stealth minions, or you make a giant weapon, or you make a giant Edwin. So you have multiple win cons in this deck, and you have multiple pop-off scenarios with this deck. So like, there's basically 2 or 3 waves of giant minions or weapons or draw or removal that this deck does before it fizzles out and runs out of stuff. But most of the time, those combo turns occurring on turn 4 or 5 and or 6, or all of them, is too much for most other decks to deal with that early in the game. Like, you might be able to deal with the first wave, but then they make a giant weapon and then you die, or you make a giant Edwin or the stealth minions. So this deck, like I said, very nuts right now. There's a lot of different renditions. Some of them run like Crab. Some of them run, I've seen even Scabs. This is the deck you want to play. You don't want to play cards that cost a lot because, again, you need to combo off as fast as possible. You're not trying to play Crab on turn 6 because that doesn't win games. You want to win games on turn 4 or 5. You want to win games before you even play the Krakatoa. So that's what this version right here targeting. Are you losing your mind? Are you going absolutely crazy? And you know why he's going crazy? Because if you haven't subbed to the channel yet and you haven't liked and commented on our videos, it makes it hard on the YouTube algorithm. He eats a lot of food. He may not look like it, but this man, this little doggo, requires lots of toys, love, affection, and things. So in order to do this, we need likes, we need comments, and we need subs, which comes from you to help him. Right, dude? Moving to the next deck on the list, we have Imp Warlock. This deck is still really good. They did recently nerf the Vial Library, so instead of giving the additional +1/+1, it has to have +1/+1 for imps on the board. So it basically, the total nerf for Imp Warlock was, when you play this card, you get 1/+1 less. That's a very minor nerf. That's like, I don't even want to call it a nerf, because nerfing means the card was impacted in a negative way that, like, it's not. It was like a minor inconvenience for this deck. So anybody who says Imp Warlock isn't good, or you shouldn't play it, or is having not success with it anymore because of this change, that's just not. This deck still runs people down. It's still, in my opinion, one of the best aggro decks by far. Very easy to play, very beginner friendly, very budget, I might add. There's only, what, 2 legendaries in this whole deck, Imp King and the Blade Master, and Blade Master you actually got for free as a login reward. So this deck is very inexpensive, very cheap, very fast games, and very good. So yeah, Imp Warlock's still one of the best decks in the game. Like I said, I don't even want to say that nerf really touched on him too much, but in my opinion, didn't really affect too much. So we have as our third deck the Quest Hunter XL. So this is XL Quest Hunter. It has 40 life. You have a lot of time to get what you need to get done. A lot of people hitting rank 1 legend with Quest Hunter. Right now, there's a lot of Mage, there's a lot of Warlock, there's a lot of Rogue, and the Quest Hunter does a lot of damage to classes regardless if they play minions on the board or not. So if you go against like Shaman or Mage, they're freezing your board every turn and you can't attack with your minions. Hunter doesn't care about freezing any board because they can do all of their damage without minions. Granted, there's literally no minions in the deck besides like 1 or 2, and those minions just draw you cards. So Quest Hunter is really good right now for the fact that there's a lot of freeze and there's a lot of classes with limited healing. So that's where the Quest Hunter takes rise from right now. Very good deck. A little bit, I don't want to say harder to play than the Imp Warlock. There's a lot of options per turn with this particular deck because you have a lot of, do you hit a minion with the damage? Do you go face with the damage? When do you switch back and forth? Quest Hunter, very, very good right now. Again, a lot of people's like most hated deck. It is a pretty uninteractive deck to play against, but it is very good against the decks that people are currently bringing, which makes other decks not very interactive, like Skeleton Mage. Like I played a game earlier today where I played like a 5/5 on turn 2 or 3, and I was unable to attack with that 5/5 until turn 12 when I died. It was literally frozen every single turn. I never attacked with any minion I had. And Quest Hunter doesn't care about that. So that's why people are playing it. Moving to Big Spell Mage. This was actually one of the top performing and best decks before this last expansion released. A lot of people went off and tried a lot of the new stuff, and then they migrated back to basically what was one of the best decks prior. None of the cards have been nerfed or changed. It's still really good because you have the Sorceress, which makes your opponent's stuff very expensive. Very good against Rogue. It's a taunt minion and it makes their spells cost a lot, which is really, really nice. It does have a couple inclusions, I'd say, which is going to be the Night Cloak Sanctum. Additional freeze, makes 2/2s. They're just good in general. Night Cloak stalls out the deck for you to do your amazing things. And then you have Theo, which you give your opponent a coin or just a shitty card and you take one of their win cons. So it would make sense that a control-like deck like this would run Theo and more freeze in the deck. So yeah, Big Spell Mage, very, very good right now based on the meta that we're seeing. I don't want to cover it too much because, again, it was one of the best decks previously and there's nothing really new there. Moving to the last deck, another mage deck we have here, that's going to be the XL Skeleton Mage. This is going to be another very popular deck that people are playing that, again, that Quest Hunter and that Imp Warlock are targeting because it is quite slow. It doesn't have a lot of healing, but the new versions of the Skeleton Mage are kind of insane because we're including this card, Solid Alibi. A lot of people didn't play this when it first came out. Seemed a little weak. It's not an ice block. It's better than an ice block. This basically allows you to live a turn when you play it, no matter when you play it, and you actually don't have to be dead when like ice block would pop when you're basically going to die anyway, right? You can play this on the turn you know your opponent's going to pop off or to just buy you a turn in general. And it also can be absorbed by the commander, so they have multiple frozen out or solid alibis. So Skeleton Mage, while it now has a ton of survivability, a ton of freezes, like your opponent's never going to be able to attack with any of their minions. You're summoning a shit ton of skeletons. It has like a million win cons. You have the skeleton win con, you have the freeze win con, you have the Dawngrass ping win con, you have Kel'Thuzad skeleton win con, you have a Mordreth win con. So it's like 5 win con mage with a substantial amount of freezing, tons of damage, and you never basically die because of the solid alibi and the amount of freezes you have. So Skeleton Mage, again, in my opinion, looking really, really good right now. Seeing a lot of it on ladder, and it's very annoying to play against. So with that, those are the 5 best decks that I've seen thus far. Played a lot of games. That's why this video is a little bit later than normal, because I wanted to get a good, well-rounded look at the meta and see where we're at. And these are the decks that are performing very, very well right now. So with that, if there's any deck that I didn't include that you think is really good, feel free to put that in the comment section below. With that, enjoy the rest of the videos that I have. I'm Robert Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.